Olivia, since you're so good at links, would you like to send the link in the Discord and Classroom?
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're live.
Just need to get to the Google Classroom. Sorry, it is taking me a while to post this link since you didn't give me a heads up that you were going to ask me to do this.
You've done it every other time. I don't see why today should be different. Love micromanaging.
Okay. So thank you for being here today, everyone. I've asked you all here today to discuss the future of both the Crypto Collegium and the FBI Infiltration Project. This discussion will encompass a variety of issues, namely how to hold all parties accountable for any wrongdoing and/or kidnapping, and how to proceed as individual institutions moving forward. Representatives from all parties will have a chance to speak. Here today, we have Julian Rhodes, Leidenbrock, Amadeus, TJ, and we also have, is there anyone else? Nope.
We have representatives from the students.
I'm getting to that. We also have a delegation from Code 220 students who will weigh in on the student perspective and help us reach a final consensus. For those of you watching on YouTube, please use the chat to communicate any additional comments. And your peers on Cat Scratch Fevers and Rats will relay that information to us. To be clear, we will have an open discussion session after every party has a chance to speak. So we will not respond to any comments from that chat until we reach that point in our discussion. Now let's have everyone go around and introduce who you are and where you're coming from.
I think we all know each other by now. Is this really necessary?
Yes.
Do you want to do a check-in question too?
No. Bronstein's not here, so let's take advantage of that.
Hello, you may call me Leidenbrock. My check-in answer is that I'm eager for this to be over with.
Okay.
I'm sure you know by now. But I'm Julian Rhodes. Olivia, this is ridiculous.
Not Professor Rhodes because you don't have a doctorate.
Neither do you.
Yeah, but I have a master's degree.
Well, congratulations.
Can we keep the squabbling to a minimum, please?
Knowing them, I don't believe so. I'm TJ, of course, undisclosed location.
Okay. And can we have first, let's have Captain Feline.
This is Captain Feline from the Cat Scratch Fevers.
Okay, and then we have Marissa.
My name is Baby Rat or Fandom Fun from Rats.
Okay. King Rat. Jester Rat, Rock Rat, and then Amadeus. Would you like to say anything?
King Rat of Rats.
Yes.
Okay, I see you're still doing that no talking move. Okay, without further ado, I think it's time to get to the perspective from the government standpoint. So I'm going to talk briefly about where I'm coming from and what I propose to do with this situation. So hello, everyone. As you may recall, my name is Olivia Worley, and I'm a policy officer for the Office of the Secretary of Homeland Security and the field manager for the FBI Infiltration Project. I oversaw day-to-day communication between students, the instructors, and the Crypto Collegium.
Can you cut the introduction? We know who you are.
Through this communication, I came to know the very real risks of FBI infiltration and what that would mean for the students involved. For this reason, I am proposing a complete cleansing of any and all records related to the hacking of Code 220 and a return to normalcy. My supervisor, although a lovely person, blindly enforces for whatever administration happens to be there. She does not have control over what happens to the CC or anyone involved, and believes in a binary version of the law. To her, the law and morals are one and the same. Despite the very real help the CC gave to recover Julian Rhodes, my supervisor will only redouble her efforts to take down the CC and pour more resources into a long, drawn-out investigation and mass arrest that will ultimately hurt everyone involved. It is also very likely that she will punish the students as well. This is not what we want. Drawing this out any further will not only hurt the students and the American people, I said that wrong. Drawing this out any further will only hurt the students and the American people, let alone the government and the CC. The FBI will not show any leniency for members who assisted in the recovery of Julian Rhodes or the students who joined the CC. Notably, we have representatives from both of these groups that did join the CC. And though I disagree with the CC, I recognize that they are not an active threat to national security. The only threat the CC poses is a threat to the reputations of people in positions of privilege and power, like myself. Their arrest, therefore, is not worth the effort or excessive punishment of an FBI investigation. I am the first to admit my ignorance when it comes to the Crypto Collegium. I had no idea who they actually were or what they actually did. The FBI often acts purely on fear because they don't like any power they can't control. Hacking has power in the sense that it can create and destroy. Yet it has become clear to me that the main focus of the CC is not on the hacking, but on the puzzles, an activity passed around just for the fun of it. We do not need to let this administration's FBI crack down just because they don't want to be out-hacked or because they're scared. Fear is a part of ignorance and bigotry. The US government fears the CC because it threatens the status quo. And if we've learned anything in liberal arts school, we know that no one protects the status quo as blindly and harmfully as the US government. I would like to propose a mutually beneficial solution. The CC refrains from hacking into the US government and everyone else agrees to stay silent about the CC. This will allow the CTC to exist without continuous pursuit from the government and will allow the government to forget about the CC and move on. This solution requires cooperation from everyone as it hinges on a blanket non-disclosure agreement and the adoption of a new Code 220 narrative. This new narrative would simply contain all planned events of the course syllabus, no contact from the CC at all, and a failure to successfully transition to an FBI infiltration. I believe this is a perfectly reasonable story to remember. We went to class, we tried to infiltrate, and failed. The CC does not get implicated in any of it, and we can all go back to our normal lives. The main benefit of this solution is that we all get to control what happens next. We get to completely start over, whether it's in the CC or in the government, and we get to keep our personal agency. The only cannot turn Logograph in for kidnapping. This leaves any and all punishment up to the CC. I don't want a kidnapper on the loose as much as the next person, but this kid is 17 and the CC has proven more than capable of handling their own. With all this said, please consider my proposal and think carefully about all the factors at play. Though perhaps you could make the argument that I'm only trying to save my own career, I'm genuinely concerned about a long investigation and the excessive punishment of both CC members and students. I think that exposing all in the end will do way more harm than good and put the power completely in the hands of people who will act ignorantly and excessively. Please keep this in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Very lovely and lengthy diatribe with all of the appropriate rhetoric, but some salient points within there. I would like to first off establish that I am speaking for the Crypto Collegium as a whole, though our opinions differ within our group. This is what we agree on. We agree that Logograph has violated our terms of conduct, our general code of ethics, and will be excommunicated from the Crypto Collegium, has already been excommunicated from the Crypto Collegium, and will be banned from all further interactions. We agree that we have had very little to do with the actions of Logograph. They used their position within the Crypto Collegium to enact horrible things, enact horrible decisions, but we merely gave them a common enemy to attack. We did not give them the supplies, the resources, the platform to do so. And we agree that we individually would like to not face repercussions for the actions of another, whether that be through cover up, as you say, whether that be through true judicious process. It has yet to be determined. I will say that, Olivia, I disagree with you and your person on many counts, but I do not fully disagree with your move to erase what has happened here.
Are you kidding? Really? You're just going to let Logograph get away with holding someone, me, in their basement for a week and a half?
Holding someone who broke and entered into their house.
Yeah,
So
I didn't say I was
let's not
perfect
forget
either.
that.
Covering all of this up, like, if we tell everybody what happened, if we're honest about what went on here in this bullshit excuse for a class, then everybody gets what's coming to them. I'm sure Logograph would love to know that I'm losing my job, probably facing other consequences, but at least they'll be facing consequences for what they did.
You're prepared for legal action?
At this point, yes, whatever, I don't care. We're not just going to brush all this under the rug as though it didn't happen. It's ridiculous.
But given that your contingent is made up mainly of government agents, it seems likely that that will happen whether or not consequences are revealed.
Just because Olivia is scared to lose her job doesn't mean that all of us are entirely willing to throw away the concept of justice for a career.
Do we really want to put so-called justice in the hands of people who do not know this situation?
And the alternative is what? Not achieving justice at all? Let Logograph continue to, I don't know, kidnap random people because they feel like solving puzzles is the most important thing that someone could possibly do?
Again, not random. You did break into their home.
Yeah, and then they decided to use that as a means to test students who had nothing to do with the situation, as you've all pointed out multiple times.
We all made mistakes here, but I think that I'm mostly worried about the way that this situation could impact people who do not deserve to be impacted in the long term. For example,
Olivia, what happened to the part where we're not commenting on each other's takes? Let on the dais say their piece.
yeah, Logograph is a minor. Thank you for pointing that out. I do not want to see Logograph punished disproportionately to something like let's let the punish, like I'm sure that they will face consequences for what they did, but let's leave that up to the CC.
We all made mistakes, and we all made bad choices, and we all helped to make this ordeal possible. Julian took action against Logograph without communicating, without obtaining permission, and without taking proper precautions. This was not only unsafe, but also illegal, and may have helped provoke Logograph's extreme reaction. Olivia's manipulation and deception of the students and of her co-workers created an environment where trust and cooperation were all but impossible, and then had the gall to attack Julian for not trusting and cooperating with her. Meanwhile, we weren't left with much choice but to intercede, but the manner in which we chose to do that sowed chaos and disruption in an environment that already had too much of both, and our choices may have been the catalyst that turned a situation with the potential for catastrophe into an actual catastrophe. And Logograph, well, Logograph held someone hostage in their basement for a week, which is bad. Everyone has a share of responsibility for this ordeal, and everyone needs to be accountable for the part they played in bringing these events to a head. Now, I don't care where that accountability comes from. We could be held accountable by any number of authorities, or by ourselves and each other, or by a formal contract. All that I ask is that everyone is held accountable by something. As long as our resolution ensures this, I will be satisfied.
Thank you for your points, Amadeus. That was really, really helpful information for coming to a consensus. And I am confident that we will be able to resolve this in a way that holds everyone accountable without impacting people who do not need to be held accountable, such as like the students, and people who will be punished more than they should be. Yes, so now that we are at this part of...
TJ, did you have
I
something to
believe
say?
we had one
Wait.
more member.
Yeah, please. I don't have a large piece to say. At this point, I am more detached from this situation, and I have absolutely zero cares for anybody's career, or even the CC itself, which can be dissolved from this point forward. As far as I see, it's been tainted. Logograph broke the terms and broke every code. And regardless of what you all decide, I will make sure that to the best of my abilities, Logograph is held responsible for their actions, regardless of whatever is decided here, whether it's by the US justice system or whether I have to take actions into my own hands personally. That's it.
I don't believe it's Amadeus.
Amadeus, is it possible you could just speak, please? I'm sure you have a voice here. Okay. With that said, I think we can move on to our student standpoints. So if
We are having a discussion that may lead to further government investigation. This doesn't seem like a prudent time to reveal our identities.
okay, sure. So if we can first start off with Cat Scratch, what would you like to say for your point of view?
So the one thing that we do agree with you on is that nobody who's innocent should be facing negative consequences here. But on that note, I don't think that refraining from any kind of action towards any wrongdoing here is the right move. The subset of the Crypto Collegium that does not kidnap people, while my team might be biased as new members of the CC, we believe the subset should be allowed to continue as they are. They were provoked by this plagiarism with their puzzles, and we think that Olivia should leave them out of her report as much as possible. We're in their debt for helping us through the room escape challenge, and the vast majority of their work outside of this, to my knowledge, such as the Fluffy Pony Challenge, is intended to speak truth to power. And ethically, it's hard to argue for endangering that over someone else's behavior. Additionally, I think your concerns may be more for your own career than for anybody else's situation. In that, do you really think that the public is going to be on the side of the U.S. government when they hear you've been utilizing free labor from college students to track down criminals? We think that logograph should face consequences by any means necessary, and I'm not certain that the crypto should be the one to impose them. That's an understatement.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Okay, so Rats, would you like to add on to that?
Amadeus has something to say
Okay.
or play.
Our intention was to expose deceit and exploitation. Our plan was to find and declassify all the information we could find about your operation, and using mostly honest and transparent, and above all non-violent methods, expose what we believed and still believe to be an unethical governmental practice.
Okay, Rats. I'm going to open the participants. So if you would like to raise your hand, if you would like to say something. Yeah, King Rat. What would you like to say?
Just want to start off with agreeing with the points that Captain Feline made, and just really want to re-emphasize the fact that I don't think it would reflect well on the government, or perhaps you personally, for the fact that a group of college students were non-consensually used in a project pitting them against people who the government had genuine belief was dangerous. These untrained, unexperienced college students being put in a situation where people who were thought to be genuine risks, genuine dangerous people, were placed in conflict with them. The CC didn't really do anything wrong in the initial bit, other than just reacting negatively to plagiarism, which, as all of us Oberlin College students know, violations of the honor code are no good. So really, I just like to say that the CC didn't really do anything wrong initially until, obviously, Logograph should not have kidnapped someone. Sorry, Jules. But
If you call me that again, I will mute you.
of course, Professor. Logograph should not have kidnapped someone, but other than Logograph acting as a rogue agent, the CC didn't really do anything wrong, and no penalty should be imposed upon them.
Okay, would anyone else from Rats like to speak? Okay, with that, I have a few points. Rhodes, I can see you rolling your eyes.
Good.
So first of all, there is no guarantee that if we put this into the hands of the US government to solve, that they will make the right decision. And I really doubt that they will. I think that if the US government is allowed to decide on this, that the CC will get completely disbanded. It might not be overnight, but it will happen eventually. And I think that, especially because there is a kidnapping case, the FBI will freak out and go nuclear on the CC members. And I think with that said, I think that with my report, if I put in my report that Logograph kidnapped Jules, then
we get it, Olivia. You're concerned for your career. And you believe that you're willing to say anything, in fact, in order to preserve it. Cute. Logograph needs to face consequences. I think that's something that everyone except for you has agreed on. Consequences further than just the Crypto Collegium excommunicating them.
As much as I hate to side with Rhodes here, I have to admit, I feel like this is just a case of Olivia being afraid of being on the other side of the constant government and hacker war that has been going on. Logograph is also uncomfortably in a bad spot, but they need to recognize that their actions, even in the digital world, have real world consequences, even if it means facing real prosecution. What happened here should be told, even if it means releasing it to the US government.
My only concern there is if we are to hold Logograph accountable for their crimes in a judiciary sense, who is going to stop the investigation just there, just at Logograph and Rhodes? Who is going to stop the law enforcement from coming after us when we have done nothing?
King Rat, did you have something to say?
As far as I'm concerned, that's on all of us. We've been fighting this fight for a long time, and I know that I'm prepared to continue it. I don't feel threatened by releasing this information. And perhaps you should reconsider your personal security, Leidenbrock, if releasing this information threatens you.
King Rat.
I just want to point out for you, Rhodes, while I definitely see the value in bringing Logograph to justice, and I am not necessarily opposed to that concept, you might just want to double check how you may come off as an adult who perhaps stalked a minor and broke and entered into their home. Just I definitely think getting Logograph some actual justice is a good idea. You've got to think about how that will look in court, how that will impact juries, the kind of punishment the judge will impose upon the Logograph would potentially be considerably lighter than it would otherwise. There may be other, less in the light methods of providing justice.
I believe we have a responsibility to everyone to make sure that we all come up out of this in control of our narratives and safe. And I know Jules keeps rolling their eyes at me.
I can just keep clicking the mute button. You realize that, right? Captain Feline, you had something to say?
Just that I hadn't considered it from King Matt's perspective before, and I agree that we would be willing to back down from our standpoint of insisting on this federal kind of case if the CC were to concoct an appropriate punishment.
Okay. So what I can offer from my position is I can offer leniency and protection for the CC. I can ensure that the investigation is halted, especially since it turns out that the CC was not responsible for the Sneaky Snake challenge, and only responsible for the Fluffy Unicorn and the hacking of the HUD. I think this is the solution that ensures the continued survival of the CC, so you can continue sending your puzzles between each other. And I know I personally will have a lot to learn from this, and I have done a lot of reflection. And
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I will. I will take responsibility with my supervisor for my missteps on this project. This doesn't mean that I'm telling all that has happened, because I do want to protect the students and I do want to protect the CC. But I will acknowledge that I was wrong to join up with this project and use this horribly exploitative way of passing over puzzles for FBI infiltration.
Okay, whatever. What kind of punishment could the CC possibly inflict on Logograph? Like, if that's the grand plan, then what's going to happen?
Leidenbach, would you like to speak to that?
I believe TJ actually would be able to speak on that.
All right. Well, we talked about this, but I didn't really want to bring it up because I don't think that it's ultimately the best choice. But about 3 years back, I wrote a script that allows the categorization of a specific digital footprint. It analyzes a person's current activity, and it has the capability to detect any future incidents of that person based purely on their activity itself. And I could slightly modify this script such that basically any time Logograph got in within, say, about 5 clicks inside of a device with anything more than about a megabyte of RAM, I can nuke the entire device. Again, I don't think that this is really adequate punishment, but
I think this is an excessive punishment. Logograph is a minor. They made a huge mistake, but I do think that they are capable of being rehabilitated, and so any punishment they receive should be permanent in the case of the CC and the direct the direct access to what they did. But I mean, they're a minor, and
Now, they did say they're almost 18. They seem very proud of that fact. So it seems almost fair to impose some kind of consequence. King Rat.
King Rat, would you like to say something?
I just would like to point out that while that idea is a good one, it would prevent Logograph from engaging with schoolwork going forward potentially, which prevents them from getting a higher education, which may prevent them from being a productive member of the workforce, which would hinder their whole future. If we're trying to avoid putting them in prison to start with, we might want to rethink that kind of punishment.
Okay, I think we can probably start moving on to discussing final proposals. So if people would, if the students, if you would like to speak up on, speak to what you would propose, or what kind of solution you stand behind, feel free to be creative on this. We are open to your suggestions. So yeah, now is your chance to weigh in.
I believe we would also like to hear if any students in the chat have had any salient points. If you could relay those to the group.
Yes. Has someone been monitoring the chat at all? Because I know I haven't.
I agree with Maeve that the American criminal justice system is not equipped to handle teenagers in a constructive way. So we can concede on that point that maybe a non-federal response is most appropriate. Team Frog blames poor parenting and says Logograph should have to do therapy.
That sounds appropriate, especially considering the amount of problematic fan fiction that we saw all over the place.
Rhodes, you
like,
encountered the parents, did you not?
Only briefly.
Well,
They seemed fairly upset that their child was engaging in literal federal crimes. I don't know what happened after that.
Okay. So in general, would you say that you are looking to use a non-institutional approach? Okay. So in terms of a non-institutional approach, so there are a few options. We can basically have a non-intrusion pact moving forward, so the government doesn't interfere with the CC and the CC doesn't interfere with the government. And that would mean that we will have to keep the kidnapping a secret, but we can still make some moves to make sure that the unethical parts of this project come to light. I will take personal responsibility for conveying that to my supervisor. We can also, so that is the more of the cleansing of records approach. And
Olivia,
another,
I'd like to be involved in that. Talking to your supervisor.
what?
I'd like to be involved in talking to your supervisor. I'm
Okay.
scared of lying as you are, and I feel like you're presenting a fairly biased approach.
Okay. You can be involved in talking to my supervisor as a decryption consultant. You still have that position, so you may reach out to Ellery. I'm sure she will be happy to hear what you have to say.
I'm sure. So the
Okay.
grand plan is tell Logograph to go to therapy and tell their parents.
Okay. So that is the cover-up approach. I'm wondering if any of you might have any other suggestions for how to do a non-institutional approach, because that is the option that I think makes the most sense. But we can also discuss other alternatives.
if no one else has points to make, would you consider allowing testimony from the accused?
Okay. Let's bring Logograph on.
I see you've brought your mother.
She won't let me near a computer without her. And she took my mask.
That seems fair.
Do you have anything to say in your own defense?
I would like to reiterate that Julian broke into my house. And they were never harmed. And it appears I've already been removed from the
kidnapping qualifies as psychological harm. So
Not mentioned the rules.
Logograph, would you be open to a rehabilitative therapy program?
For what purpose?
So that you're less of an asshole.
to grind some ethics into you.
Yes, though I think that Rhodes might need that with their lack of empathy.
It appears that I may already be forced into such a thing.
Well, anyone else have inquiries?
Amadeus, we'll give you a minute.
In that case, I have just one question for everyone, and I want honest answers. We are proposing that we all leave these events behind us and go our separate ways, with none the wiser. Meaning, we would be the only people aware that these events ever transpired. Do you all have the fortitude to hold yourselves accountable for what transpired here, to be cognizant of the mistakes that were made and learn from them, to be informed by these lessons and by your conscience in your future actions? Can you promise that you will never again repeat the actions of deceit, negligence, exploitation, dishonesty, and sometimes open hostility that brought us to this point?
Lovely. Now Amadeus is running a group therapy session right now.
Amadeus, that was
no
that was
promises.
lovely. Thank you so
I
much.
can make no promises on deceit or deception, but the other points I definitely can.
Yes. And I don't know if we want to go the legal route. We don't have to, but if you are worried about someone not holding to their bargain, we can draw up non-disclosure agreements, but if that's not necessary, you don't have to pursue that. Also with non-disclosure agreements, part of that, I am going to donate my salary that I got for this project, so that I will not monetarily benefit for my actions. And I know that Braunstein never thought that he was getting paid this entire time. So his salary can definitely go towards compensating the students for all that has happened over this period of time, as well as my salary.
Baby Rat?
Not that I'm against being compensated, because I would definitely like that as a very broke college student. But isn't that technically stealing? Like, just a question.
I believe technically it is.
It would be, everyone member who did the government, we would get a confirmation from Braunstein about this. Every person who was on the government end will give up their salary. We did have to pay Oberlin College. They still have to get that money.
Okay, are we done here?
Okay, can we all agree to stay silent about what has happened here and move forward with our lives? And Logograph, can you agree to go to therapy?
Just know, Logograph, I'll be keeping a very close eye on you.
It appears I am already being forced into it. They'll be there.
Okay, so with that, I would like to thank our representatives from Cat Scratch Fevers and Rats for coming onto this call. Your testimony was extremely helpful in this case. Thank you so much. And with that, I think we can all say our final goodbyes. So Julian, would you like to go first?
I'm not really sure what there is to say. It's been, I would say, lovely teaching you all, but that might be an exaggeration. Mrs. Murphy, you have a lovely house. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I would like to say that despite everything that has occurred, and I take total responsibility, I am so sorry for everything that I have done. I have actually really enjoyed being your TA, and I've loved getting to know all of you. And I've had, I think I've had a really engaging and I've had a really engaging time, and I will take this experience with me forever. And I will definitely reflect on this moving forward. And I hope both Griffin and I will both, we'll take this and we'll think about it, and we won't do any of this kind of stuff ever again.
Lovely. If we find any of our puzzles posted anywhere outside of our own channels, this will continue. Other than that, the door to the CC is always open to those who can unlock it.
Yeah, the report that I write to Ellery will ensure that this project will be deemed a failure, and I will say that the CC is not a threat in my report. And so hopefully nothing like this will happen again.
Anyone else, or are we done here?
I can promise that we here at the CC will not forget the part that we've played in this. However, Olivia, Julian, Logograph, you will also not forget the part that you've played in this, or the mistakes that you made here, and you will not repeat them. If you forget, we'll be here to remind you, and we won't be subtle.